My life has always been built on trust. As a licensed art therapist in Boston, my job is to create a safe space, a sanctuary. I work with people in crisis, veterans, trauma survivors, families struggling with grief. My voice, my face, my measured calm, these are the tools of my trade. They signal safety, ethics, and unwavering professional neutrality. My name is Eliza Vance, and I am 44 years old. I'm married to Daniel, an economics professor at Boston University, and we have two teenage daughters. Our life smells like charcoal and canvas from my office and the comfortable, slightly dusty smell of old books from Daniel's study. It's a respectable, grounded, and intensely private life. My reputation is everything. I have spent 2 decades building it, speaking at conferences, publishing papers, and occasionally posting professional, supportive video messages on my small, verified social media channels, offering tips on emotional resilience. I am a public figure, but a trusted one. The moment my carefully constructed world shattered began on a Tuesday afternoon. I was in the middle of a session with a long-term client, helping her process a complex grief using clay. The office was quiet, the light was soft, and my phone was, as always, on silent. When I finally checked my phone during a break, the screen was screaming. There were 62 missed calls, mostly from my husband, Daniel, and several frantic messages from my oldest friend and colleague, Dr. Simon Hayes. I opened Simon's text messages first. He wrote, "Eliza, call me now. Do not check Twitter. Do not check LinkedIn. I mean it. This is a 5-alarm professional fire." He followed up with a second message. "It's about the videos. What in God's name were you thinking? Call me before the board hears. Videos? What videos?" I hadn't posted anything in weeks except a promotional message about my upcoming resilience workshop. My heart started to beat a cold, hard rhythm against my ribs. I immediately called Simon. "Simon, what is happening?" I was in a session. "What videos are you talking about?" I asked him. He asked me, "Eliza, have you lost your mind? Why did you make that video series?" His voice high-pitched and frantic. Those toxic, divisive political views and those reckless investment tips. It's the most unethical, insane thing a therapist could do. I answered him, "Simon, what video? I didn't make anything. I haven't looked at social media in a week," I said. He told me, "No, you did. It's exploded all over the internet. On YouTube, under the title Eliza Vance's Truth. Your face, your studio, your clothes. But the words coming out, Eliza, they violate every oath you've ever taken as a therapist. You're telling people they deserve their financial losses because they're weak. This is professional suicide." He shouted. I hung up on him, my hands shaking violently. I typed my name into YouTube. The top result was a video titled, "Dr. Vance on Financial Darwinism. Why Your Poverty is Your Fault." I clicked on it. The video was chillingly familiar. The backdrop was my actual office, the bookshelf behind the couch, the framed degree on the wall. The camera angle was perfect, like one I would use for a seminar. And the woman in the video was me. It was my face, the same slight wrinkle when I smiled, the same silver locket I always wore, and the voice, my voice. The cadence, the low, calm register I use when giving advice. But the words, they were venom. The deep fake double, this digital clone, leaned toward the camera and said, "If you are still struggling financially after 40, you deserve the struggle. Resilience is about cutting off the weak, not nurturing them. Stop complaining about income inequality and start crushing the competition. That's the real therapy." I watched, numb with horror, as the clone continued to spew hateful, reckless garbage that contradicted every single ethical principle I lived by. It was the absolute antithesis of everything I stood for as a human and as a professional. This wasn't just a troll. This was a targeted assassination of my professional identity. The sheer terror of the technology hit me. It was so perfect. I almost doubted myself. Was there a tiny, dark corner of my mind that secretly believed those things? Had some internal breakdown manifested itself in a drunken, forgotten recording? No. Impossible. I immediately called Daniel, my husband. Daniel, turn on the news. Or just check YouTube. It's an emergency, I told him. He said to me, I know, Eliza. Simon called me. What happened? Did someone edit one of your talks? This is a disgusting fabrication, he said, but his voice was hesitant. I cried out to him, no, it's not fabrication. It's deepfake. Someone stole my face and voice. Daniel, this is not me. They are mocking my ethical principles. We have to find this person immediately. He asked me, Eliza, calm down. I know who you are, but this is so real. Your office, your voice. Be honest, was this some kind of performance art project? Was it an experiment? His hesitation, the tiny crack of doubt in the voice of the man who knew me better than anyone, was the second blow. If Daniel wasn't instantly, fiercely sure it was fake, how could I convince the outside world? Within the hour, the professional repercussions began. My phone rang with an official call from the Massachusetts Board of Registration of Allied Mental Health. The woman on the phone, Ms. Albright, had a dry, accusatory tone. Dr. Vance, we have received dozens of complaints, including an official petition demanding the immediate suspension of your license, based on the highly unprofessional and unethical content of a series of videos circulating online. I explained to her, Ms. Albright, I did not make those videos. They are deepfakes. They were created using artificial intelligence, I said, struggling to keep my voice from shaking. She told me, Dr. Vance, unfortunately, that is a defense we hear often. The image is your face. The voice is your voice. If you claim this material is fabricated, you will be required to provide counter evidence to support that claim. In the meantime, we are placing you under official investigation. You are required to suspend all your sessions, she said, suspension. My office, my sanctuary, was officially shut down. My reputation, my ability to earn a living, my identity all seized by a digital ghost I couldn't fight. I spent the rest of the evening deleting every single public professional video I had ever posted. I realized that every piece of my public face, every seminar, every conference speech, every kind, supportive message was the data used to train the AI that was now destroying me. My success had created the weapon for my own execution. I looked at my reflection in the dark window. The woman looking back was terrified. She was losing control of her own image, her own voice, her own truth. The deepfake double was real enough to destroy me, and I had no idea how to fight a ghost that wore my face. The suspension of my license was like a physical blow. The office, which had always felt like a haven of healing, now felt like a crime scene. I had to call my clients one by one and explain that I was under investigation for professional misconduct for things I hadn't even said. The shame was suffocating. My first logical step was to pursue legal action. But the legal system, I quickly discovered, hadn't caught up with the speed of AI. I met with Mr. Jeremy Thorne, a renowned defamation lawyer in downtown Boston. His office was cold, modern, and utterly pessimistic. I explained to him, I need you to issue a cease and desist. I need these deepfake videos taken down immediately. And I need the identity of the person who created them. He responded to me, Dr. Vance, legally. This is a wasteland. We can issue takedown notices based on intellectual property and copyright. But YouTube and social media sites only move quickly on explicit, non-consensual content. Your videos are categorized as political commentary and financial advice, a much slower process. I asked him, but surely the courts can prove they are fake. We can use forensic analysis. He told me forensics is expensive, slow, and non-conclusive enough that a skilled defense attorney can cast doubt on it. And even if we prove fabrication, the anonymous nature of the creator makes suing them almost impossible. We're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars just to initiate a lawsuit. That has a 50% chance of success. And by the time we get to court, your career will already be history. His words were brutal, yet true. Monetary compensation wouldn't repair my reputation. Only immediate, decisive action could. I left the lawyer's office feeling physically sick. The legal system, the bedrock of our society, could not protect me from a digital hallucination. Meanwhile, the videos multiplied. Every time a major platform removed one, 5 more popped up on smaller, darker corners of the internet. They were designed to look like leaks, fragments of a larger, hidden truth. The narrative was simple. Eliza Vance is a hypocrite who preaches compassion, while secretly believing in cruelty. The pressure at home was unbearable. Daniel, normally my rock, was beginning to crumble under the constant questioning and the financial stress of my suspension. He kept seeing headlines about me when he tried to grade papers. One evening, I found him staring at one of the videos on his laptop. The deepfake double was laughing a cold, cynical sound as she dismissed the idea of student loan forgiveness. I asked him softly, "Why are you watching that again, Daniel?" He looked up at me, his eyes tired and distant. He told me, "Because I keep trying to find the flaw, Eliza. I'm an economist. I look for anomalies. But the inflection, the way you cross your arms when you make a point, the deepfake is perfect. I know it isn't you. But why can't I stop wondering if you were having some sort of silent breakdown and recorded this in secret?" I replied to him, my voice cracking. "You think I would sabotage 20 years of ethical work? You think I would violate my oath and ruin our family's future?" He confessed to me, "I don't think you would. But the digital world has blurred the lines between truth and performance. It has placed a professional bomb under your career, and I don't know how to disarm it. I need you to prove it's fake, Eliza, not just tell me." That was the deepest cut. I needed to prove my own innocence to the man who swore to cherish me. The very nature of the deepfake was designed to create doubt. And it was working perfectly on the one person whose trust I cherished most. I realized the answer wasn't in law. It was in cyber intelligence. I needed to fight the AI with better technology. I reached out to Dr. Lena Petrova, a former computer scientist I knew through the university network. She was a brilliant but quirky independent forensic analyst who specialized in tracing digital footprints in the dark web. I knew she was my last, best hope. I called Lena and laid out the entire devastating story. She asked me bluntly over the phone, "Dr. Vance, how public are you willing to go? Because fighting a viral deepfake requires more than just deletion. It requires counter-propaganda." I replied to her, "I'm willing to go as public as necessary. But first, I need you to find the source. Who is the person or group behind the deepfake double?" She told me, "That will be 6 figures up front, Eliza. No retainer. A straight fee for the risk involved. We're dealing with advanced AI and sophisticated anonymity tools. They will have hidden their tracks deep in the network." The financial demand was massive, wiping out nearly half of our retirement savings. But I couldn't hesitate. I had to choose between my life savings and my identity. I said to her, "Consider it done, Lena. Find the source before the deepfake destroys everything I am." Lena's immediate analysis confirmed my deepest fear. The AI model was trained using all my publicly available speeches, interviews, and professional videos. But there was one anomaly. Lena sent me a detailed message. She wrote, "Eliza, the AI trained on your voice data also utilized a private, non-public audio file. It's a 15-minute recording from approximately 3 years ago. It appears to be a therapy session, a monologue, where you are speaking directly to a patient about forgiveness and trauma." I wrote back to her, "A private session? That's a massive breach of ethics. Who was the patient?" She wrote, "I don't have the patient's identity, but I have the time frame. It was a one-off consultation you did for a corporate crisis management firm. A session focused on an employee struggling with betrayal and sabotage. The session was recorded legally, under a strict NDA, for training purposes by the firm. Only 3 people should have had access to that recording." The reality hit me with the force of a train. This wasn't a random attack. It was personal. It was sabotage rooted in betrayal. Someone who had access to that highly sensitive, private training material was trying to destroy me. I pulled up my old records, focusing on the corporate consultation I did 3 years prior. The client was a major tech firm that had recently laid off a group of employees, who were later tied to a massive internal data breach. The patient I spoke with, the focus of the recorded session, was Mr. Julian Vance. Wait, Julian Vance. No relation to me, but the coincidence of the name made me pause. Julian was a mid-level manager fired for performance issues. Right before the data breach became public, his session focused entirely on his feelings of being betrayed and erased by the company. He dedicated his life to a deep fake, powered by my stolen voice, was now weaponized against me. And the source was likely a vengeful former patient. Someone who felt betrayed by the system and perhaps by my perceived success. Learning that the source of the attack was likely Julian Vance, a former patient from a corporate consultation, was both a terrifying validation and a chilling ethical dilemma. It meant this wasn't just random destruction. It was personal, fueled by a deep-seated sense of betrayal that I, as his therapist, was meant to help process. My immediate instinct was to share this critical information with Daniel, hoping it would erase the lingering doubt in his mind. I told him, "Daniel, Lena found a clue. The AI was trained using a private corporate recording of a session I had with a man named Julian Vance. He was struggling with feelings of being erased and betrayed by his company. This is targeted revenge, Daniel, not a breakdown." Daniel was sitting at the kitchen table, meticulously cleaning his glasses, avoiding my gaze. He responded to me, "Revenge? Maybe. But Eliza, you are talking about breaking patient confidentiality to find the source. If that information gets out, you won't just lose your license. You'll face criminal charges. It proves you'll cross any ethical line when desperate." I defended myself, "But I am desperate. He is using my own face to destroy my integrity. I haven't broken confidentiality. I haven't revealed anything about his therapy. I only mentioned his name and the context of the corporate recording to my forensic analyst." He responded to me, his voice sharp with frustration. "But you are acting on non-public patient data. The moment you started investigating him yourself, you became unethical. I just need you to stop acting like a fugitive, Eliza. Let the police handle this." I argued back. "The police don't understand deepfakes, Daniel. They don't understand the speed of AI by the time they get a warrant. I will be professionally annihilated." The argument ended not with a resolution, but with a widening chasm between us. Daniel was a man of absolute roles, and in his eyes, my frantic, self-preserving actions were proving the deepfake double's insidious narrative, that I was secretly reckless and unethical. I stopped confiding in Daniel completely and focused my energy on Lena Petrova. We met in a secure, windowless basement office Lena used for sensitive work. The space felt like the anti-sanctuary, dark, cold, and dedicated to fighting invisible enemies. Lena informed me Julian Vance is technically skilled. He was laid off just before the Nexus data breach. He was one of the erased employees. We talked about his online footprint is dedicated to AI ethics blogs, but his tone is shifting. He's posting aggressive manifestos about the invisibility of the working class and using technology to force the elite to pay for their perceived sins. I asked her, "Can you trace his current location using the upload data?" She replied to me, "I can trace the uploads to a highly anonymized VPN server farm in Eastern Europe. He's careful." But I did find one weakness, a small, personalized code sequence he used in the deepfake video's metadata. It's a signature, like a painter's brush stroke. Lena explained that this sequence was a tiny, self-referential digital watermark, a mark of pride from an amateur who wanted his genius recognized, even while staying anonymous. If we could find this signature elsewhere online, we might find his current digital hideout. We spent 2 agonizing days chasing that digital watermark. The clock was ticking not just because of the viral videos, but because the Massachusetts Board of Registration had scheduled a formal hearing to review my temporary license suspension. Finally, Lena found a match. She told me, "I found the signature. Eliza." It was embedded in a donation request for a small, anti-corporate tech collective in a derelict corner of Cambridge. He's asking for funds to continue his digital justice work. Julian is physically nearby. Julian Vance was in the city. The man who wore my face was breathing the same Boston air. I drove out to the location Lena provided, an abandoned warehouse district near the waterfront. I sat in my car, looking at the decaying brick building, feeling a paralyzing mix of professional empathy and sheer terror. I was trained to help the Julian Vances of the world, not to confront them as my attacker. But I knew confronting him directly would be pointless and likely dangerous. I had to outmaneuver him. I had to fight deep fake with deep fake. I asked Lena during a tense phone call, "Lena, can you create a deep fake of Julian Vance? A video that shows him confessing to the attacks, explaining his method, and apologizing for the ethical violations?" There was a long silence on the line. She replied to me, "That is highly unethical, Eliza. It's what he did to you. If we create a synthetic video and use it to coerce him, we break every single ethical standard. We become the very thing we hate." I argued back, "I am already suspended, Lena. I am already ruined. This is self-defense. He used my professional image to violate my oath. I must use his digital vulnerability to save my name. Can you do it?" Lena, the cold, pragmatic scientist, finally relented. "Yes. I have enough audio data from his public manifesto videos and enough visuals from his old LinkedIn profile. But this is the point of no return, Eliza. If this is traced back to you, you will never practice therapy again." I knew the risk, but the alternative was silence, ruin, and the validation of Daniel's worst fears. The next 24 hours were spent in a race against time, creating the ultimate act of digital self-defense. Lena worked on the deepfake video, a chillingly realistic 2-minute confession. Meanwhile, I worked on the strategy. The deepfake double was still out there, making toxic videos using my face. And the board hearing was the next afternoon. I went home briefly to change my clothes and faced Daniel one last time before the hearing. He was quiet, distant, reading a classic economics text. He finally looked up and said to me, "Eliza, the board called. They are leaning towards a permanent revocation. They want to know why you haven't been more cooperative with authorities." I responded to him, I am cooperating, Daniel. Just not with the authorities you trust. I am fighting fire with fire. I am fighting a lie with a different kind of truth. He simply said, "Be careful what kind of truth you create. Eliza, it might be the only thing left of you." I walked out of the house, the weight of Daniel's mistrust heavier than the threat of the board. My deepfake counterattack, my final, desperate throw of the dice was the ultimate gamble, my ethics against my survival. The day of the Massachusetts Board of Registration hearing was the coldest day of the year. The air was thin, and the streets were slick with ice. I walked into that sterile government building, not as a respected therapist, but as a woman fighting for the professional life she had spent 20 years building. My lawyer, Mr. Thorne, had strongly advised against my plan. He told me, "Dr. Vance, introducing fabricated evidence, even in self-defense against fabrication, is a massive legal risk. We should stick to forensic analysis." I responded to him firmly, "Mr. Thorne, forensic analysis is too slow. The public has already judged me guilty. I need a viral intervention to match the viral attack. This is my last move." The hearing room was intimidating, a long table dominated by the 7 members of the board, including the stern-faced Ms. Albright. I sat alone at a separate table, feeling the full weight of the professional community's judgment. Ms. Albright opened the proceedings. She said, "Dr. Vance, the evidence suggests a sustained pattern of unethical behavior presented under your name and image. We require a conclusive reason why your license should not be permanently revoked." I decided to forego the legal niceties. I stood up, ignoring my lawyer's frantic hand gestures. I began by addressing the board. "Members of the board, I know what you've seen. You've seen a version of me that is hateful, cruel, and reckless. I did not create those videos. They are deepfakes advanced AI used to synthesize my face and voice. And I have proof." I nodded to Lena, who was waiting discreetly in the back row. She quickly pulled up the screen at the front of the room. I explained to the board, "The technology is so convincing that proving fabrication is nearly impossible. So, I fought fire with fire. I hired a forensic expert to create a counter deepfake, a video that exposes the creator of the original toxic campaign. This confession is also a fabrication, but it contains the truth." I explained that the confession was the only way to publicly expose the attacker's identity before he could inflict more damage. Lena pressed play. The screen lit up with the face of Julian Vance. The deepfake was flawless. Julian's digital double looked directly into the camera. The digital Julian Vance confessed, "I created the Eliza Vance deepfakes. It was an act of revenge. I felt erased by the corporate world, and I used her image, that image of trust, to show the world how fragile truth is." The reaction in the room was electric. The board members gasped. Ms. Albright looked horrified. Before they could recover, I quickly moved to my closing argument. I told the board, "This is the world we live in now. Trust is a vulnerability. My crime, if any, was being too successful, too public, and too trusting of the systems around me. If you revoke my license based on the actions of a digital ghost, you are not punishing me. You are validating the power of the deepfake technology and telling every public professional that their reputation can be destroyed with impunity." The deliberation was agonizingly long. When they returned, Ms. Albright looked exhausted. She announced to me, "Dr. Vance, the board finds your actions in creating counter-evidence to be highly unconventional and ethically precarious. However, we acknowledge the unprecedented nature of this attack and the compelling evidence that the original videos were fabricated. Your license suspension will be lifted, contingent on a 6-month probationary period and a commitment to not engage in any public online media that discusses political or financial matters." I had won. My career was saved, albeit scarred. The media coverage that followed was explosive. I was framed as the first victim of deepfake professional sabotage, a symbol of the fragility of modern identity. The attention, however, only pushed me further into isolation. I tried to call Daniel immediately. I called him from the lobby, my voice shaking with relief and triumph. I told him, "Daniel, I won. The suspension is lifted. I can practice again. I'm coming home now." His voice was flat and cold. He said to me, "You didn't win, Eliza. You simply exchanged one life for another. You proved to me that when the chips are down, you will sacrifice ethics, the very thing you teach to survive." I pleaded with him, but I did it to save us, to save my job, to save our financial stability. He told me, "I don't need financial stability built on an unprincipled foundation. You used a deep fake to coerce justice. That is not the woman I married. I need time. I can't be here when you get back." I arrived home to an empty house. Daniel had packed a small bag and left a note on the kitchen counter, not an accusation, but a simple statement of loss. His note said, "I wish I could believe the deep fake was the only lie. But the biggest lie was the one you created to save yourself. Until you can live without the need for control and the desperate need for public validation, I cannot be your anchor. I am going to stay with a colleague." My victory felt like ashes. I had defeated the deep fake double, but I had lost the real thing, the trust of my husband. Julian Vance was eventually identified and located by the local authorities, who had been slow to respond to the original complaint. He was arrested based on the evidence Lena had compiled, not the deepfake confession, but the metadata and the digital watermark. He was charged with cyber harassment and digital identity theft. I went back to work under probation, committed to rebuilding my shattered reputation. My practice slowly returned, but the nature of my work changed forever. I stopped posting videos. My social media went silent. I became intensely private, only trusting my voice and face in the sanctity of my office. Away from the digital realm, I learned the most terrifying lesson of the AI age. Your face is not your own, and your voice is a weapon that can be turned against you. I saved my professional life by becoming a digital warrior, but the fight cost me the emotional security of my home. I am Eliza Vance, the therapist who preaches trust, but who now lives alone, in a world where I can't even fully trust my own reflection.